So we now is LovelocalFood do lots of education work both out in the community and also working here on food-based, farm-based learning. So those three organisations deliver a practical engagement with farm.
It's a short document at the moment, that's deliberate because we want people's ideas to feed in. As a sustainable city, Exeter's one of the sustainable food cities, there are 6 priorities that have been set at a national level to promote healthy and sustainable food to the public, tackle food poverty, diet-related ill health, and increase access to affordable healthy food, build community food knowledge, skills, resources and projects, so very much the kind of things Kevin's been talking about. Promote a vibrant and diverse sustainable food economy, food production, growing and food, transform catering and food procurement, reduce waste and the ecological footprint of food systems.
With the Exeter Food Network participating with the steering group. So today we're primarily focused on trying to strengthen the work of the network and also an opportunity to feed back on the first draft steering group strategy.
Several challenges within that. Some of them are quite a commercial challenge. How do we get local food into the city so that people will feel that they can buy it? Some of it's a practical thing. How do people engage in the city, in the farm, if they've got limited transport? And how can we get an understanding or growing understanding of where our food comes from?
Next, have access to affordable healthy food, which is similar to the first one, but it's about cost as well. And strengthen the local food economy. So that might be about local producers having more access to local markets, for example. And increase the food community in Exeter, so markets do a lot of work on that. So start to think about the organisations that are involved with and how, and so the nitty-gritty of what they're doing and how we do it, and finding out if we have similar challenges to each other that we can tackle together, or in fact if we have things that we can share to help do that. So whether some of us might have premises that we have a shortage of, or that can be rented out, or might have minibuses, might have particular ways of organising that works really, really well, or things like legislation, probably volunteering. So we've got some templates to start to think about what we've got, who your organisation is, who the key contacts are, what the aims are, and what you do. So the real sort of nitty-gritty on the ground, and the challenges and the resources.
Create these hubs and these places. Yeah.
To help achieve council strategic aims by reducing costs. It's not necessarily direct funding, but it's reducing costs. I mean, we closed what could have been a profitable shop because we're paying commercial rents. As a social enterprise, the only social enterprise working on the front line in the top 5% of deprivation neighborhood nationally. And when the council basically got into us, we said, you know what, there's a point at which this is absurd, you know.
more independent suppliers, and then using facilities such as here in order to make and pasteurise smoothies that we could use. The Exeter smoothie bar.
We feel, for us, that if we were linking with lots of other organisations who could actually be using our van and be doing projects alongside us, actually that helps us with our core costs.
Yeah.
If there's money being used together in terms of...
To hear the voices of the people who are too time poor to be here, because the producers aren't here. There's certain parts of the network that can't be here, so we're not getting their input. So what are the nodes, what are the challenges, channels we can put in place to start to do that?
If we went back to what Kevin said to us at the very start, which was about linking people to food and linking food to people. So I think that's actually a very good starting point. And in that, I've written down through the day 3 words that I think are part of the food strategy, and that is coming out from everybody, has come out from everybody during the day. Which the first one is place. So it's nice to see a good geographical concepts right there. But we've obviously had our kind of tour around the farm, and that's a key component of the educational aspects of what goes on here. And we've talked about the importance of a market and the ways in which actually place is often removed from food events, because it's actually more about, it just happens to be a food festival in Exeter or Plymouth, rather than being about food from Exeter and the peri-urban area around it. So place is really important. Secondly, I've written down process, and again that was brought out on the tour of the farm, but understanding the process of how the food that we eat actually arrives on our table, and that might be about where we buy it from. It might also be about the skills that we need to produce that food ourselves in baking a cake or something like that. And then thirdly, I've written down links, because there are lots of links to other big agendas that are ongoing, that some people here are already involved in, which are connected to food. And so just some practical points. The phrase I've heard a lot of today is joining up. So talked about mapping. Lots of people are interested in mapping what's going on. The Food Network is clearly interested in that. Rebecca then turned to me and said, actually, that would be the kind of thing that a master's student who has to do a project, that would be a fantastic thing for them to do. So joining up some of these resources that Kevin was talking about earlier is really important. Finally, I always seem to end up with this point, is that I've written political action, planning. But actually, the point that Kevin made about the fruit trees, for example, or the market, there probably is a role for the Food Network, as it's already doing, of course, but to do a bit more of, which is lobbying our politicians, particularly at this right apposite time to do that, with a couple of elections coming up, local and national. But I do think that the lobbying component is, we haven't talked about it much today for all sorts of reasons, but that seems to me that could also be very important.